favorite channel to this as we speak, so we don't want to do anything until we're live on the air. All right, so welcome. Welcome to the Newton Town Hall for our candidates night. Thanks everybody for coming. We have an exciting evening in front of us, I hope. I'm Robert Desmelik, I'm the moderator. I left my ref shirt behind because historically, sometimes this candidates nights in Newton have had more in common with WWE wrestling or a rugby game or something like that than a candidates night. So we'll try to be pleasant, respectful. We'll have different points of view on certain things. I am going to ask people that are asking questions to think that you're asking them to a beloved family member and not think that you're a crossing attorney in a courtroom, who's grilling the person. Don't think I'm interrogating, think I'm asking a question. Because we have had experiences in the past where it seemed like people were interrogating each other. And then I sometimes get dragged into the fray, and I don't like to have to do that. So anyway, we're going to start off with the school board budget committee candidates. We're going to work our way through. We're going to start with the school district. We're going to do school district things. Then we're going to switch to the town. We're going to kind of warm up, and we're going to work our way through. And we're going to finish with the selectmen. It's kind of like a concert where you have the warm-up acts, and then you get to the main thing. So let's start first. If we could have, what we're going to do is candidates are going to come up. They're going to sit down, grab a mic. They should be on already. And then everyone's going to have a chance to kind of introduce themselves, talk about themselves for a few minutes, and then we'll take questions from the audience. We do have a few people who are unable to join us tonight, so someone else may be reading a brief statement on their behalf, but they won't really be answering or taking questions. So let's start off with the candidates for the school board budget committee. We have the other thing I have to say, I should have said in the beginning, I am one of the world's experts at mangling people's names. So chances are I will say the names incorrectly, and everyone will, I hope, find that amusing. So it's Mary Sear. Did I say that right? Come on up. No, looks like Heather Ingram, who has a statement which will be read for her. So the person who's going to read, you don't need to come up, you can just sit tight for the minute because you're just going to have to read her statement. And then Jim McCarthy. So I'm going to let these people do some explaining because you'll probably want to get into more of the details, but we have both in the budget committee for the school district, we have candidates who are elected by each town, Kingston and Newton. And so my understanding is that, Jim, you're running for the Newton town seat, correct?
Correct.
And then there's also the at-large seat, which is a person who's elected by the voters in both towns collectively. And that seat sort of represents both of the towns as an at-large seat. And Mary, you're running for that, the at-large seat, I understand, and also Heather is. So why don't we start off, if you can read, just come up to the mic and read Heather's statement. That would be great. And then we'll do the introductions.
Do I want to talk to these guys, or do I want to talk
Well, just use the mic. I mean,
Okay.
They can hear you. If you want to turn around and face those guys, you're welcome to do that too. Whatever you prefer. Just so that whatever is easiest for you, and make sure you're talking in the mic so the people at home can hear us.
Okay, my name is Diane Gloss, and I appreciate your time here. Heather had a pre-planned trip that she was unable to make it, but she asked me if I could read this statement for her. It says, I'd like to apologize for not being present this evening. I am currently away on a trip supporting a friend. This trip was planned well before my decision to run. I greatly wanted to be in attendance to give the voters an opportunity to learn more about me. As a voter, I wanted to be in attendance as well. I'm running on the belief that supporting and investing in your community is the cornerstone of change. I believe that by involving yourself, you can support and enhance the community that you live in. I've lived in Newton for 13 years with my husband, who grew up here. We collectively volunteer our time with the community by supporting Memorial School, Newton Baseball Softball Association, and Sanborn Youth Baseball. Our 3 children are an integral part of our community involvement. We want to ensure our children are awarded opportunities for growth both socially and educationally. I also envision a community where all members are engaged, valued, and supported. Professionally, I'm a clinical director of NFI Massachusetts, a nonprofit service and mental health agency. Within my time in the field of social work, I've often provided mediation, conflict resolution, and family couple therapy. I learned that all involved parties often have common goals and are able to meet in the middle once given the opportunity to be validated and supported. And I just lost my spot. Oh my God. To be validated. Okay, sorry. I have excellent listening skills and will actively ensure all stakeholders are heard and valued. It is also my responsibility to provide sound fiscal oversight by assisting with creating and maintaining a budget program. Working in the world of nonprofit, I often have to be creative and think laterally in regards to our budget. Our budget is finite, and with that, I have learned how to prioritize and sacrifice in order to maximize our resources. As the at-large member, I will do my best to represent the towns of Newton and Kingston in the Sanborn Budget Committee. I recognize the importance of creating a budget that will support our schools while considering the needs of taxpayers and local business owners. If elected, I consider it my duty to serve the needs of all Newton and Kingston community members, from retired persons to our youngest residents. I believe my strong organizational skills, my keen eye for detail, and creative problem-solving skills will be an asset on the Budget Committee. I thank you for your time and welcome your questions, input, and advice. I can be reached via email at heatheringham04@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I suggest we'll go by alphabetical order. Mary, why don't you start off?
Do you want me to read my statement? Or?
Sure,
All right.
sure.
Thank you all for electing me as the at-large representative to the Sanborn Budget Committee back in 2017. I've been honored to serve in this capacity through the two most recent budget cycles, working to present budgets that direct adequate resources to fund education for our community's children, while being mindful of the taxpayers' ability to support increasing expenditures. During my tenure, I've also regularly attended school board meetings to gain a better understanding of the district's needs and priorities. This has helped me to confidently engage in discussions with my fellow committee members and be productive. Last year, the Budget Committee asked for and received detailed line item budget requests from school administrators, which resulted in the delivery of a flat, needs-based budget. That figure represented a 0.6% increase over the previous year. It was resoundingly embraced at the first deliberative session before being subsequently approved by the voters of both towns. Perhaps some of you here have noticed a $1 decrease in your tax rate this year. That was achieved in large part by putting forth a needs-based budget and the school board's decision to refrain from spending year-end surplus in June. You should also thank your town leaders here for their conservative fiscal management. The same disciplined approach continued with the development of the 2019 budget, which will come before voters again on March 12th. The Budget Committee was able to trim $224,000 and change from the originally requested amount through collaboration with the school board, school administrators. Although lean, a mandated increase in the cost of special education, inflation, especially the increased cost of health care benefits, and the urgent need to address previously deferred technology issues, coupled with a reduction in revenues from the state due to decreases in student enrollment, has resulted in a 2.11% budget increase for the coming year. Our Regional School District Budget Committee is governed by Chapter 32 of the Municipal Tax Law, and it's comprised of 8 members. As our moderator here explained, there are 3 elected members from each town, 1 at-large member, which represents both towns, and an appointed school board member. By design, this configuration provides for a variety of opinions and perspectives. I have not always agreed with my fellow committee members. I can assure you, however, that my deliberations have always been respectful and measured, and my voting has been guided by what is needed, tempered by demands placed on taxpayers. It's the Budget Committee's main responsibility to justify the district's annual budget requests and to advance the budget number to the deliberative session in February. We do not dictate how the budget figure is appropriated, nor do we make or amend district policy. Those duties are in the purview of the school board. We do, however, vote as a committee whether or not to recommend other articles on the warrant which carry an associated financial impact. I'm proud to have been a part of this collaborative and disciplined effort the last 2 years by all stakeholders to better understand the funding needed for the delivery of quality education in our district. and to have prepared budgets which support the associated costs. I would welcome the opportunity to help SAU 17 meet the needs of our community again, while curbing unrestrained budget growth over the next 3 years so that other priorities may finally be addressed. Those things include regularly passing and teacher and support staff contracts, expanding early intervention, enhancing professional development in order to attract and retain the best teachers, and improving curriculum. Finding the right balance is not easy, but I am prepared and willing to embrace the challenge again. I would appreciate your support and your vote on March 12th. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, an introduction, please.
Good evening. My name is Jim McCarthy, and I'm running for the Budget Committee seat for the town of Newton. My family and I moved here back in November 2016, and I have 2 children currently in the elementary school system. One is in 4th grade and the other is in kindergarten. Our 15-month-old daughter is she's not about to, but she will be going into the school system as well when the time is appropriate. The last 3.5 years, I've had the great opportunity to be a stay-at-home dad and really understand what my children's developmental needs are and see them throughout their friends as well. We chose the Newton district, or the town of Newton, to live in because of the school district and the awards that it has received. And it's just a beautiful town all the way around. And that was a shock to me to find that what we were moving into has been met with so many headaches regarding the school budget and such issues for the school as it is right now, specifically the middle school. That's been a big bone of contention. But going further, I've worked in the manufacturing industry for 35 years, and I've applied project management, lean manufacturing, 5S, and common sense to eliminate waste in the products that I have been involved with developing or already developed products, keep them on budget and within a estimated projected materials costs. And in the last few years, I have taken upon myself to become a mechanical design engineer and help other entrepreneurs bring to life their own projects. And I do this by having a reasonable expectation of the cost of materials and a budget which suits their needs and allows them to bring a product to the community, many of them which you have not seen yet because they are all still in development. As a budget committee member, I desire to work with the other budget committee members, the school board and the school administration to present a budget which considers the voices of the community, the school district. I feel this is a great opportunity for me to give back to our local community. I realize there's a delicate balance between the school budget and the reasonable taxes collected from the surrounding community, which needs to be maintained. And I can be reached via email at jimmccarthy.bud.com@gmail. And thank you for your time.
So, questions. How about questions for our school budget committee candidates? Oh, come on, there must be somebody who's got a question out there.
There we go.
Ball rolling.
So I'm Rick Faulkner from Newton, and I have a question for Ms. Siren and Mr. McCarthy. The 2 most hotly contested warrant articles at the recent meeting were Article 8 and Article 11. So 8 was to remove elementary from the one sentence from our Articles of Agreement, and 11 was to appropriate funds for the hockey team. I just wondered where you stood on those.
Go.
I'll tell you how as a budget committee member, we only vote on matters that have financial impact. So I did not vote on Article 8 because it's just a change to the Articles of Agreement. I voted in support of the hockey warrant this year. I voted against it last year, largely because at that time it had gone before the voters once before and they turned it down. I also felt that at the time, we had a new superintendent come in, and he was trying to get his arms around the priorities for the district. And when he came in and said, I've got kids who aren't reading at grade level, you know, I need professional training for our teachers, professional development, so that they can teach better in the classroom. I thought that hockey at that time was not a priority. I feel that they've organized as a group. They've come forth and they put the article forth specifying that it was only going to be for the same things that other teams got as a NHIA team. They were looking for, you know, to pay for coaching and uniforms and referees and bus stuff. And the financial impact was next to nothing. Am I concerned about the potential for creep? Absolutely. It happened with football, for which I lobbied back in the day when my oldest child was in middle school. You start with a JV team, and then you get a varsity team, and then you get a freshman team, and that can happen. But I think that these kids deserve a chance, another chance, and it is. I feel it should be up to the voters whether to make it a line item in the budget, and I support them at this round. When it comes to Article 8, I think that we need to be in compliance with the state definition of what an elementary school is, which is either K through 6 or K1 through 6 or K1 through 8. And we're currently not in compliance. And I also like the idea that by taking the word elementary out of the definition of our schools in Newton and Kingston, that it will open us up for future reconfiguration that might make sense, because we've had dwindling enrollments. And I would like to see the NESDEC study, which the school board approved, in order to determine how we could best use our facilities and maximize space to free up money to, I guess, redirect toward programs that would impact learning. So to answer your question, yes, I'm in support of Article 8 and 11.
Jim?
Yes, I am definitely in support of removing the word elementary from the Articles of Agreement. It is a binding word that is holding back the efforts of Mr. Ambrose. I agree with his initiative to review the costs of the middle school and possibly move students to the high school. There are people very close to me and people kind of close to me that have completely different views of that, but that's expected. It's you know, it's a two-way road here, and we're all talking about the benefits of our kids. Some people don't see it that way. The costs associated with the school district here is one of the things that I found shocking after I moved here, and that was, you know, one of the things that's driving me to run for this position. That's why I want to be here, because the history that I've been briefed on by the pro-school and the pro-tax people have shown me that things kind of got squirrely and out of hand a few years ago. And I see that Mr. Ambrose is trying to get that taken care of, and I wish to support him in getting that back online. So ultimately, again, yes, remove the word elementary so we can go forward, and it still does it still does, you know, mandate that there is a school left in Newton, whether it's K through 6 or K through 3, it's going to be here. And as far as the non-compliance police or anything like that that's going to come down on the town of Newton or Mr. Ambrose, there is nobody that's going to do that. A couple weeks ago, I was speaking with one of the state school administrator overseers. I forget exactly what her title was, but I was asking her to go through and explain to me what I'm looking at and what the town is looking at and what Mr. Ambrose is looking at. And one of the first things she said is that, yeah, there's nobody that's going to be complaining about your non-compliance, and your schools have been winning awards. If your school was actually a real issue and that was the first thing they looked at, you wouldn't be getting awards. So our schools are fine, and you know, if they justify that we can rearrange the elementary schools and stuff, sure, so be it. That's where I stand on that one. The hockey, yes, please support it. I'm all for athletics for kids in high school. The argument or the facts that the high school athletic program, athletic director put forward for the article of agreement is, you know, self-funding is completely agreeable. They're going to take care of the ice time. They're asking for the same opportunity to take the students interested in the sport and clothe them in their gear just as well as we would the football player, lacrosse, field hockey, track. You know, all those sports require that the school is funding them in some way, and I don't see why the taxpayers can't throw up money for getting them onto the, getting them into the program and covered, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think I see a question coming, or more than one.
This question is for Mr. McCarthy.
Correct.
It's based on a comment you made during your response to the other question, where you said that you were responding to the pro school and the pro tax.
Yes.
I'm concerned that you put a line between people when we have a lot of people who don't fall into either category.
Okay.
So I'm curious, where on that spectrum do you find yourself? Are you on the pro-school, in the middle, pro-tax, or I should say pro-no tax or limited?
Yes.
Because I don't think anyone's pro-tax.
Well, when I made that pro-tax statement, I was meaning that they wanted to reduce the taxes, that was a main concern of theirs.
So
when I
I'm
was saying that.
curious where you see yourself on that spectrum.
I'm trying to remain in the middle of the road on this, but that's, you know, like you're saying, you want to see an answer. I'm pro-school. I'm pro-children. A statement that I heard a long time ago was that 95% of the children in America are told no about the majority of the questions they ask. And that goes from a math question to fun, or just being able to do an extracurricular activity. I hate to hear kids be told no, but I also don't want to turn around and put a tax burden on the public where the people have to pay extra money so that they don't have oil for their house either. I heard that argument as well, that, well, with the increase in taxes, I can't make that extra money come out of anywhere, and I still have to pay for my oil. I agree with that, and I also don't want to turn around and say to children, no, you're not going to be allowed to do this sport or that sport or the other sport because we don't want to fund the money for you. So, you're welcome.
Any other questions for our budget committee candidates? Seeing there are none, you are free to go. All right, thank you. So now we're going to move to the school board candidates. So if you're a school board candidate, come on down. Mr. Fitzpatrick, I think, and Mr. Matheny, come on down. And you don't have to sit in alphabetical order, but we'll probably call you out in alphabetical order. And I'm going to say, I'm not really sure, you can tell us what seat you're running. You're both running for the Newton seat?
We're running against the Newton, yes, for the Newton seat, yes.
Okay, so there's one seat, two candidates.
Yes, sir.
All right. So why don't we start with Mr. Fitzpatrick? Why don't you give us the brief introduction, and then when you're through, Mr. Masson, Corey, you can give us your introduction, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jamie Fitzpatrick. I'm running for the Newton seat on the Sanborn Regional School Board's school district. I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself, a bit about my background and why I've decided to run for office. I've been married to my wife, Patty, for 25 years. We have two children. One is a junior in college and one is enrolled in the district. We moved to Newton in 2008. Newton is our home. Our family has been in Newton longer than any place else we've lived. We've moved a number of times, and Newton is our longest residence. I've worked for the same company for 37 years with increasing responsibilities and managerial experience in numerous different functional areas: finance, marketing, controlling, manufacturing. I've also been both a plant manager and a product manager, culminating in a responsibility for a $300 million business. I have a BS in finance from Fairfield University. I've achieved certification as a certified management accountant. I've also co-created and co-taught a financial accounting for non-financial managers course in conjunction with the American Management Association, and this has become a standard training program throughout our company. On a human relations collaboration side, I've led teams of hourly and management employees to make work rules more flexible and more efficient. I've also led international teams with people from different backgrounds and cultures. In all the cases, listening was a key ingredient to leading these teams to success. I joined the Newton-Kingston Taxpayers Association a few years ago to begin to address my concerns that I considered to be a runaway spending with the Sanborn Regional School District and poor performance of the district as measured by the comparative testing, which is published by the New Hampshire Department of Education. I believe taxpayer dollars should only be spent after due and careful deliberation and should be spent in the same care and frugality that one uses in spending one's own money. I believe in traditional education and traditional educational standards and grading. I also believe that we as a community must do better to improve our students' proficiency in math and reading. 2008 annual report reports for 11th grade proficiency levels in math and reading at 30% and 54% respectively. I believe that concerted and directed efforts must be developed along with the thinking outside the box to find ways to improve our students' results in these areas. I understand that the school board position represents the entire community and requires a high level of focus and dedication. I have attended most all school board meetings this past year to better familiarize myself with the current challenges facing the district. I have been encouraged by the new administration and their willingness to take on the tough challenges that we face as a district head-on, and I feel that my background provides me with a diverse set of skills and experiences that will enable me to be a valuable contributor to the school district as we forge our way ahead and position ourselves to be a high-achieving and fiscally suitable or sustainable school district. I respectfully ask for your support and your vote in the coming election, and I can be reached by email at jtfitz59@yahoo.com. Thank you.
Corey?
Good evening. My name is Corey Andrew Mason. Many of you have heard me. I'm a self-professed governance geek. Proud parent of 4 girls, 2 for which are currently in the school system, 1 at Memorial, 1 at the high school. I'm also a life partner of a 2nd grade teacher and proud family member of educators from my extended family. I'm fortunate to have been elected to serve you and on also multiple boards over my years of 20 plus in enterprise and municipal government. I've contributed to teams and committees as a senior network engineer, as a director of technology, as a director of business development, and have co-founded multiple enterprise networks and education management organizations. I thank you for allowing me to have served 2 terms thus far on the Sanborn Regional School District's board as a representative to all stakeholders of Newton, New Hampshire. I'm obviously seeking re-election and would appreciate your vote to continuing honoring the students, the staff, the parent guardians, and communities of Sanborn Regional School District. I can go in depthly to who I am. I think if you've watched the meetings over the last 6 years, you know who I am. I think if you've seen me mature as an individual, seen me be challenged by the politics in town, you know who I am. I also invite you to actually go to a website that'll be launched and will be going public this evening to learn a heck of a lot about me. I recommend you go to coreyforeducation.com. You'll find there questions and answers that I've already asked myself that I assume you might ask me. Questions that I ask, why am I doing this again? Furthermore, questions that ultimately, I also go ahead and place online what my accomplishments have been since I've been part of the board. A, as an individual, being professionally or been part of, and also go ahead and place online, again, if you go to coreyforeducation.com, you'll see what I'm hoping to accomplish if you re-elect me. I'm an open book. I'm here for you. I'm here for the kids. I'm here for everyone. So thank you very much for your consideration in advance for re-electing me.
Questions for our school board candidates?
Good evening. I have a question about the time commitment that's involved in being a school board member. It takes a lot of time. I've seen it. I've attended a bunch of subcommittee meetings as well as school board meetings, and I see what's involved, and I live with a school board member who I can see how much it takes. Over the past year or so, Mr. Mason hasn't attended most of the subcommittee meetings that he's a part of where a lot of the work of the district is done. My question is of both you gentlemen, what do you see going forward as far as your availability to serve and to be involved and to share the work of the district instead of not being there and having it happen without your presence?
Want to go first? Again, from my perspective, I'm still gainfully employed, so I do work every day. That said, I have had discussions with my direct supervisor, and I will be taking what time is necessary to support the school board should I be elected. I do go to all of the school board meetings presently. I have been to even the ones that were canceled last minute. So I have made the commitment to make sure that I would be there. I do understand there's committee meetings, subcommittee meetings that would have to be attended, and I would make up that by going into work earlier on the front end. And presently I am an early riser. I get up at 3 in the morning, I walk, and then I get to work, so I don't foresee any issues there. I'm usually in my seat at work by about 5:15 in the morning, so that will more than free me up for the time that I need in the back end to attend subcommittee meetings.
So it's a true statement. Since I've been re-elected this second term, I've missed one meeting, board meeting that is. I've been 100% present regardless. That one meeting was the deliberative last year. I've either been remote or I've been in person. You want to talk about dedication, when someone who's flying across the nation, going to school board conferences, going to superintendent conferences, working with other leadership teams and other board members about education. I've made sure I've ridden on trains, I've been on buses, I've been in hotels. I've always worked around those board meetings that happen in the evening. I agree 100% with Ms. Collier's comment and question. How many subcommittee meetings have I missed? A fair amount. I absolutely have. And the truth of the matter is, I regret that. I feel bad for that. But at the same exact time, I have faith in my fellow board members, and I do my homework ahead of time. So if there's something I'm overly concerned and or questioning on the agenda, if the agenda is presented in a timely fashion as it should be by statute, local and state, I will go ahead and assure myself I get an answer and brought forward. But again, so that being said, my challenge this past year was launching a platform that's going nationwide. My challenge this past year is to go ahead and be immersed with other districts. So if anything, I'm really fortunate to be there to bring all those benefits and all those conversations back home when I'm dealing with school districts of 47,000 kids, with leadership teams that are quadruple ours, with balanced budgets and challenges that are far more concerning, but yet at the macro level, but it's really not, because we have those same problems here. So the point what I'm trying to get to here is this upcoming year, and if you've noticed since October, I've been almost at everything. It's because my schedule is changing. In person, how many board meetings since the holidays have I been in person? Regardless, I've been 100% present physically and mentally and in person and also remotely. So I hope that that doesn't shine a negative light on me, when I'm actually out there doing my work, but also contributing remotely. And asked me what have I contributed in the last years, and what do I want to continue? So great question, Ms. Collier. The truth of the matter is I continue to make myself more readily available.
Well, I think we're going to invoke the Gagne rule, which came up earlier, which is that we decided as a way of changing the nature of the questioning sometimes, that we're not going to have follow-ups.
It's just my question wasn't answered.
Okay, but, and I think I know where the follow-up's going, but we're trying to prevent the kind of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If there's a related question that somebody wants to ask, or if you want to ask to another person, but if, I don't want to kind of, be interrogating the candidates.
Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Just in short, you will find my presence to be of greater capacity, to which I would be more than inclined to be the board chair, because I know what it was to take a couple years ago to be that board chair, and my work that took to. I'm glad that I wasn't nominated this past year to be board chair, because I would not have been able to do it. So I would be more than comfortable this year being nominated for board chair, because I know my schedule moving forward. Hope that answers your question. I know, that's why I said I hope that answers your question.
All right, next question.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Jim McCarthy for putting me on this path. So my question is related to my first question to the Budget Committee members. There's been a lot of talk about divisiveness where you have people with the pro-no tax versus the people that are pro-school, and that you can't be both. Now, you two both represent different sides of the middle line. So I'd like you to tell us where on that spectrum you are, and how you intend to work with those that fall on the other side.
You've already-
We'll flip the order, so Corey, you can start it off, then we'll go back. That
Sounds
way
good.
you'll alternate who starts.
I think, as you heard me say initially, I'm a governance geek. And what does a governance geek mean? That we include all stakeholders. So ultimately, I want to be a person of the community and a person of all stakeholders. Now that is challenging because, quite frankly, we live in a state without a really good source of revenue, with exception to a few communities. So my biggest goal is to go ahead and take a step back and think to ourselves, what are we doing as a whole? Again, if you look at CoreyForEducation.com, I've already answered this question a little bit. And you'll see that the whole, and I remember years ago when I was up for re-election, the reality is we need to work in partnership with the selectmen, Lisa. We need to work in partnership with all stakeholders of what are we all doing to grow our tax base? What are we all doing to go ahead and mitigate those challenges and risks to go ahead and drive people to move into town? I'm a firm believer that we need to change the narrative from where we have a declining enrollment, as we've heard everyone say. What about how are we going to increase enrollment? What about how are we going to go ahead and bring more people into the community? I look at Kingston, I'm quite envious. Regardless the fact they are building up, homes for 55 plus, still a smart idea. So my point being here is, I don't see myself on either side of the fence, other than the fact I'm interested in all stakeholders. But as my website says, vote Corey for Education, I'm serving on a school board with one purpose. My role and my responsibility as a school board member is to try to go ahead and assure that the superintendent and the leadership team for the superintendent have the right resources to go ahead and increase student outcomes. Now that may come as a sad conversation when we say we need more, because ultimately it rests on my shoulders as a taxpayer. But the reality is we have a public education we're trying to fund here. And our public education, as we all know, is the #1 employer in our communities. So why not go ahead and make that an opportunity for success, for which drives people to move in, for which then drives our tax base. So I'm about governance. Board, superintendent, director, leadership, stakeholders, all in one, working towards the same goal, increasing organization performance and student outcomes in this case.
Jamie.
Yeah, I have a problem with the premise of the question, that there is a inherent dichotomy that someone who is concerned about tax spending is somehow against schools. I don't accept that false dichotomy, and I don't think that's correct. I believe that most everybody is of good faith and is trying to find a solution that improves the education of our children. There are some people that tend to lean one way, some people that tend to lean another way, some people that try to find a third way. People are trying to find an answer to provide better education for their children. I don't believe it's a matter of there is a group that says, the hell with education and the hell with children, I want lower taxes. I don't believe there's a group that says, I'm pro-kids and I don't care if everybody has to increase their taxes $10,000 next year. So I think that there is a false dichotomy that is pushed by some members of the community, not the questioner, I'm not trying to impugn that, but I think if you spent all of your life on Facebook, you might be a very discouraged person for some of the things that you might read. And I think that what our roles need to be is to say we need better outcomes. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. The disagreements are, what is the best means to achieve that? What out-of-the-box things can we do that we're not doing today? How else can we find ways to bridge the gap to get these things done together? And I think that's what the focus has to be in order to achieve that, better outcomes for our students.
Thanks. Other questions?
Howie, I just had to ask, it's not really, I guess it's a question, but more of a statement, because I heard the partnership with the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Mason mentioned that.
Yeah.
So a little background, and I realize when you're on a board, and everybody should realize this, when you're on a board, you're one vote, right? And there's
True
like,
statement.
you know. Newton Board of Selectmen sent an invite in November of 2017 to the school board to meet in January of 2018 here in this room. Our response from the school board was, we don't like the location, we don't like the date, could you come to our meeting? So, where were you on that one?
I was against that response as an individual.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I'll just stand on my tippy toes. Hold on now. How's that? Can't do it. Pam Brown, Newton. So the school board is governed by a policy manual, and in that manual, there is a conflict of interest provision that guides the board in its activities. Mr. Mason, when you joined the board, you were working for a company called Spark Govern, and the company had been used in our school board, it's a software company, to invite our board members to join this software, and we didn't understand that it was your company that was using the software with our school board activities, and you were told to stop using the school board as a beta test for your company by the board chair at that time. This happened before our current superintendent took his position. You also took screenshots of password-protected images for your company to use of our school board activities. It took a school board motion to have you cease and desist at that. And my concern is, what is your interest in continuing as a school board member, given that you have a conflict of interest moving forward, and you work for a company that sells software to school districts? I'm certain that it helps your commercial business to continue listing yourself as a school board member, but my concern stands because you have missed meetings of our school board for business reasons as well. Thank you.
Directed to me.
Certainly.
So it's a true statement that when I first joined the board, Dr. Brown and others, that I was a IT director in North Andover Public Schools. When I was reelected for this second term, I was a IT director at North Andover Public Schools, and also had a software company called Be Simpler, which I created with students from North Andover Public Schools. So if you look at the timeline here, I was actually nowhere near prior re-election, part of an organization that sparked. So that first statement that she led off with has zero truth in that whatsoever. I worked independently and outside, and then ultimately, because of the challenges that I've seen here locally, because of the challenges of me onboarding selectmen, councilmen, ad hoc board members, myself being a board member, all those challenges, I actually got recruited by a pretty cool company that actually had one of their products on the shelf for board management, because they saw me as someone who thought, hey, he's in the trenches, he knows what's going on, hey, he understands how it is to go ahead and assure stakeholder engagement is occurring, bring information to the table. So it's a true statement. I did, and prior to actually becoming an employee, bring it forth to the board and bring it forth to Dr. Blake at the time. I was not employed at that point in time. It is a true statement, so then those of you who know me, and some of you know me pretty well, that my company did not succeed. Again, I started with students in North Andover. And so I was very fortunate to have jumped ship and go across to another company. It is true, when I was chair, I was using tools that was helping me as a board chairman go ahead and facilitate meetings, because quite frankly, I would much rather go ahead. How many of you know that you have to log into an email system to look at something, get data, packets of information out of another system, how you have to manage your tasks and events? I was very fortunate to be part of a company called Spark, now NextBoard, where we were streamlining that process, where we can establish goals and establish all this board meeting stuff. So you're darn right. All that stuff happened after my second election. You're right that I was board chair, and I was trying to help mitigate all those tasks that I was doing as a board chair. And when Mr. Broderick, our standing chair, came in, he obviously heard this concern of conflict of interest. Mind you, there was zero financial gain occurring in the state of New Hampshire. If you look at my history, I purposely went ahead and did not create or have any sort of form of interest because of this very conversation. Now I'm going to pause for a second. Just because I work for a company doesn't necessarily mean that why would you not want me to go ahead and bring my knowledge to the table to help this community? I do recall there are board members who are teachers who obviously always say, as someone who teaches and does this in their professional life, that Ms. Broderick, not to name names, Dr. Brown, but you do that quite often, I don't call you out on that. So the point being here is I'm happy that she has this influence and this information to bring to the board, because of talking about dichotomy and talking about diversity. I benefit as a board member, and I also benefit as a community member for her experience coming back to the table to help out the community. So if it's a shame on me, and you're shamed the fact that I'm out there trying to do something that's going to bring it back home, that's not my concern. My concern is trying to further our community. And so, again, there's been zero financial gain whatsoever in this discussion, and there never would be. So I hope that answered enough of that question.
Any other topics or questions?
One quick question. I have one interested member of the school district that would like to understand either one or both of your positions on the middle school.
So, let me go. Yeah, sure. So there is discussion about movement of the middle school. There's been discussion as to the $4 million or so that was in the capital plan, and is that needed or not needed, and what are the total costs of that? There's been discussions of can you make adjustments at the high school to provide a middle school experience. I would not be opposed to that, but I wouldn't say that I'm in favor of it either, because I have seen no data. There are discussions that is being reviewed, and NESDEC has made some scenarios that can be reviewed. The board has issued directions to Superintendent Ambrose to investigate that. He has looked at it, and I believe either on the meeting on the 6th or the follow-on meeting later in the month or in April, he will be presenting information about that and what the ramifications were and what his plan would be to do that. I would reserve judgment on a decision until I knew what the facts were. But that is something that is being discussed. I am not inherently opposed to it. I'm not inherently for it. I do think that it is worth exploring that and other aspects as to how might we bring better educational experience to our students. And if that's an area that might allow that to happen, then I'm willing to explore it and look at the data and go where the data leads me.
Corey?
You said a good word there, facts. And as someone who's worked in school systems and had to oversee all technology and work directly with leadership between town, fire, and sit at those tables, we had to have real truth serum in our conversations. Whose money is coming from what of this budget if it gets passed, and what are the priorities? I had the misfortunate part of being part of eliminating a lot of inner city schools and a lot of neighborhood communities. Back in Haverhill, if you remember in early 2000s, there were an awful lot of schools that were closed down for redistricting purposes. I had the misfortunate time of being on those leadership teams to hear the parent guardians, to be part of the leadership team and go through that. But in the end, what we agreed to do was to go ahead and be smart about it and keep those buildings in good shape. So in the event that we had a boost in the economy, a boost in enrollment, a boost in people moving in, or we didn't have a plan, we didn't see 5 years down the road because things change, as we know. Our enrollment went 10 years ago when the high school was built. It was built for a different purpose. We're now floundering because we haven't maintained or gone after that purpose, possibly. I gotta say the word possibly there. So my end answer is here, is I've been there, I'm currently here, and the most important thing that we can do as a board and as a community is raise our voices and understand what is the definition of success for Sanborn as a community as a whole. And how does that building help contribute to those outcomes? And how does that building, or any challenges that we're going to do financial investment, how does that actually help contribute to how our community is going to be successful? So long story short, going back to our Article 8, which was asked in the prior session, I support any opportunities to mitigate risk in us getting better facts, so we can then bring them forward to the community and take swift action. This type of action allows us to help you get information out there, so which we can all be involved in discussing. So hope that answers that well enough. For what's worth.
Any other questions from our, okay, we're going to take like one or two more, because then we got to move over to the town offices.
Jim Baker, Newton. I have a two-part question. The first one is directed to Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason, I've heard you on numerous times describe your involvement around the country with school systems, and I'm trying to understand exactly what it is that your involvement is. My understanding is that you're a software salesman, but from your description, I would think that you were involved in big policy decisions for school boards as far as their direction, their implementation of programs, the kinds of things that the superintendent and the administration team would do. Can you clarify that for me?
I feel like I remember watching a video on some gentleman, really nice guy, kept raising and doing this shameless plug of a website. So I'm going to recommend you go to a website that's Corey for Education that has some links there that share a little bit what I do in my day job and what my company is about. It's a true statement. I'm a director of business development, and as a director of business development, I actually was very fortunate to bring together the software side of the fence with my platform that we're part of for the board management, and also do something called Mindset and help bring in governance coaches. I recently was speaking in the last 2 months with a board member who doesn't know what governance means. And so I ask you all to go to my website, coreyforeducation.com. What I do is I work with other leadership teams to go ahead and take these needs analysis of NEASC, take these needs analysis of everything that we as taxpayers put together, build out, ultimately, real strategic planning sessions. You've heard me suggest that we really sit down as a community, as a whole, and say, what are we going to do to address the challenges that we've identified? What are we going to go ahead and do to address the challenges that the numbers in the state reporting has, for education purposes here, has identified? And what do we value? So I work with accreditation systems nationwide. I work with superintendents nationwide who are looking to go ahead and leverage our coaching and our platform to say, when are we meeting? What are we meeting about? what are we measuring progress on, and how are we keeping on task? Now, again, it's a far bigger conversation, but my role is trying to help empower other leadership teams to do their job effectively to meet the needs of the stakeholders.
In my background, that's called consultative sales.
Sure, but we have product and coaches.
My
to
other question
do it.
has to do with cost management and development of our school system. You've been involved with the school board for 6 years.
Yeah.
You were part of the decision-making process that has resulted in my opinion, a misallocation of funds. We're spending far more than surrounding districts, which has been acknowledged by the superintendent. We're spending less on teachers than surrounding schools. And I just wondered how that came to be and what you see the solution for that. And then I would ask Mr. Fitzpatrick to comment as well on his point of view as well on that. Thank you.
So I want to be very cautious here. I'm a board member, so are you, Mr. Baker. And you've had similar challenges over the last 2 years in making votes. So I want to be very cautious and remind ourselves here that, yes, I've been part of that, and I'm one person who's voting on these boards. And just like education, for which you go ahead and we implement new strategies and we implement new curriculum, and ultimately there's a new crop of kids coming in, it's a interesting challenge, not to lose you here. 5 years ago we implemented PACE, first in the nation. We should all be proud that every other community in the nation are looking at becoming a performance-based learning system, a competency-based environment. We were first in the nation, right? Those outcomes of that implementation take time. We're not going to see the full results of that without a full cycle of a kid going through the school system for 12 years. So what I'm saying here is this challenge of kicking the can, this challenge of the revenue stream coming into our community, this challenge of the board and having to go ahead and deal with the finances has been happening way before my time on the board. And ultimately, as someone who is concerned, yes, like yourself and every other board member, of our fiduciary responsibility, we have our hands tied, as you've said, sir, because of buildings. Do we have the right buildings in place? Are our buildings properly equipped? So my long story short here is you have to go ahead and do proper needs analysis, pay for these things, to get outside consultants to look at it who have zero pecuniary interest and zero conflict of interest and zero bias and results, to come in and inform the boards, inform the community, inform the leadership teams. Here's what we're seeing, here's what national trends are telling us, and here's something you need to look at because you're so close to it. I mean, ultimately, we need to empower that. Was that empowered before my board involvement? I'm going to say the answer is no, because I don't see a lot of that information being properly vetted out and brought to the community. My answer is I want to be more transparent in making these things happen and getting the community's involvement, because again, I'm just one voice on behalf of you. And again, taking my experience outside of the state and elsewhere and in the state, I want to bring that information back and say, well, how is this helping me as a taxpayer? How is this helping me as the board member to assure your success, your goals of success being met?
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, so obviously I have not been on the board, but I would sum it up in one of the comments I made in my opening statement. I think that the reason is that due care was not given before spending taxpayer money, and it wasn't treated as spending their own money. I think that there was not appropriate attention paid to long-term planning. I think that there was a long-term plan that was out there that wasn't really directing anything. It was just a hodgepodge of, well, if we can get extra money at the end of the season, we'll pick 2 or 3 things off the tree and spend on that without a focused program. So again, I'd go back to due care in spending taxpayers' money as if it was your own, and getting value for money. As regards the competency-based education, I would have a greater sense of urgency than saying that I need to wait 12 years to get results. I think that is far too long to be waiting to get results. It's been in for 5 years. There's been zero improvement in math, and there's been a decline in the reading scores. I think it's time to take a look at that and, again, look at what are the results. The results that we're looking for is improvement in student performance. If the spending levels aren't driving that, we need to relook at priorities, relook at spending, and relook at programs to get results. And I don't believe that we should be waiting 12 years for results.
All right. I think time-wise, we ought to move on. So I'm going to set you guys free. You've been grilled enough for the evening. I do have one quick item on the school front yet to go. There's a Warren article that the proponent of the Warren article asked to speak to briefly. So if Bert Holmberg is here and he can talk quickly, you got a minute or two to pitch the hockey Warren article. or use it the way you want.
My name is Bert Holmberg. I've been the president of the Sanborn Ice Hockey Boosters for the last 7 years. We're in our 7th year of being. Sorry. I've been involved with hockey all my life, and I was president of the Amesbury Youth Hockey for 19 years. I've been in Newton since '97. And I actually did a club team with my oldest son. We tried to go before the school and get it, and they wouldn't approve it, so we went and did it ourselves, and we had it for 4 years. And then I kind of got away from it when my youngest son was in elementary school, but when he got up into the high school, I got back involved in the 8th grade, and I got involved in, we had a JV team for 2 years, and then we went to the board. We actually went to the board and asked to become a JV team, and we said we would finance it. It was about $11,000 to do a JV team. We did it for 2 years, and then the school, and I don't know whether it wasn't the board. I think it was more the athletic director came to us and said, "Hey, we want you to be a JV, a varsity team." And we said, "Okay." We looked at it, and it was going to be an additional $14,000, and we've been doing that. This is our 5th year of varsity. We've raised $25,000 every year to pay for everything. In the last 3 years, we've put in a warrant article. We've been asking the people to pay for what they do with the other athletes, which is, the coaches, the association fees, and the school buses. It's about $10,000, and we'll pay for our ice, like we always have. We pay for our uniforms, and we're hoping this year it'll pass. And I'm here tonight because I heard about the meeting, and I said I'd come and answer any questions anyone has about the article.
Any questions on hockey? You're lucky. Got off without getting grilled. All right, so we're going to move on to the town now. I think it was important to spend a lot of time on the school district because the school is very important. It's a critical part of the community. Obviously, our kids go there, those of us who still have children in that age band, and it forms a very important cost component on everybody's tax bill. And it shapes the community in many ways, in terms of the desirability of moving here and the value of the houses and all kinds of things. But back to the town now. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to go kind of quickly so we can get to the main act, namely the selectmen, with the unopposed town offices. So, Mr. Landry, if you want to come up for a second, that'd be great. I am going to read something on behalf of James White, who's running for planning board, who asked me to read this for him. I was like, so this is to the residents of Newton, New Hampshire. My name is James White, and I'm running for re-election to the Newton Planning Board. I apologize I'm unable to attend this candidate's night. I've served on the planning board for 3 years. My first term was for 1 year as a replacement for a vacated position, and for my second term, I ran for the position. I'm running again in hopes to continue serving the town of Newton to the best of my ability as a planning board member. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you. Sincerely, James White. So now we all get to ask our questions to Mr. Landry here. Bill's running unopposed. Bill, why don't you do your introduction, talk about stuff, and then we can ask him whatever questions we want.
Okay, fine. Good evening. My name is Bill Landry, and I am on the ballot for the cemetery trustees. And as you can see, I'm unopposed. So I think I've got at least a 50-50 chance of getting elected.
He'll be in.
In addition to the cemeteries, I also am on the Historical Society, the Joint Loss Management Committee, which is the new name for the Safety Committee for the town. And I'm also a member of the Seabrook Nuclear Plant Emergency Management Team here in Newton. And there's a couple of things I'd like to talk about.
I just heard that there's like chains dragging in the back, but that's okay.
We just heard from the gentleman regarding a warrant article for the school. The trustees this year have a warrant article, Article number 4. And this article is to pave the driveway at the Highland Cemetery. Now, if you're on Facebook, I imagine everybody is, or if you got the Carriagetown News, you probably have seen the articles that we put out there regarding this. The Highland Cemetery, well, first let me say, to get a plug in here for what we've done in the past, as you probably know, a couple of years ago, we paved the Willow Grove Cemetery, which greatly improved the appearance, the operation, the safety of the cemetery. And we did that at no cost whatsoever to the taxpayer. We were able to take the $10,000 charge for that from the Cemetery Trust Fund. Now, Highland Cemetery, which is much larger, and the roadway over there is in serious shape, bad condition. It has been for several years now. The water table over there is so high that during the winter and spring time, we get puddles over there, and we actually end up putting barriers at the back half, the back portion of the driveway, the U-shape in the back. And every year that we've done that, basically, we've had people ignore the barriers. They either move them, they circumvent them, just drive around them, which exacerbates the problem with the ruts and so forth there. And in some cases, as we've written about for the last week, people will, to avoid going in the ruts, they'll drive up over other people's graves. So come springtime, or summertime actually, when the water has finally subsided, we have to go in, repair the roads, repair graves in some cases. So what we're trying to do is to get it paved. And as it says in the warrant article, that's a $25,000 cost. I'm happy to say that we have another $10,000 in the Common Trust Fund that we will take to help defray that cost. So what we're looking for from the voters is $15,000 to complete this project. And $15,000 is a lot of money. It sounds like a lot, it is a lot. But as we've said, if you look at the actual tax impact of this warrant article, if your house is, your taxes are based on the assessment of your house. And if your house is assessed between $250,000 and $300,000, it's going to cost you either $7, $8, or $9 to get this project completed. And that's a one-time hit, a one-time assessment this year only. In 2020, that 7, 8, or 9 comes off your tax bill. So this is so important for the safety, the appearance, the operation of the Highland Cemetery that we really hope everyone takes a good look at this and supports this so we can get this done. And that's about all I need to say on that. One other thing before Ms. Gonier gets up here with a question. The annual report that comes out in March each year, as you know, I'm sure you all digest it completely. Each department puts a report in of its own. And typically, it's what you did the previous year. Well, this year, we took the opportunity to put in what we have accomplished on the Board of Trustees, Cemetery Trustees, over the last 12 years. And the reason we did that is, I've been on the board for 12 years. Ron Saunders has been on for 11, Mike Hughes, 10. So we've basically had the same group of people for the last 10 to 12 years working on it. So we wanted to take an opportunity to let the taxpayers see what we have accomplished, going back to 2007, when I first got on, right through until December 31st of 2018. So if you would, when you get your copy, which will be out in a few weeks, right? Pick it up, bring it home, and the first thing you should do is go and read the report from the cemetery trustees. But that's it. So if Ms. Gagne has a question,
Mr. Burrow's going to start off, I think.
So I'd just like to say, Bill, thank you for doing this job so the rest of us don't have to do this job. And I mean that sincerely, so I hope you win.
We appreciate that. Three of us appreciate that. Coming up, Lisa? Yeah, I'd be disappointed if you didn't.
I like to ask everybody questions, just so everybody who's not here
Yes.
gets informed. Cemetery trustees, not a lot of people know what you do. What is a cemetery trustee besides repairing roads?
Well, of course, we maintain the cemeteries, and there are actually 8 cemeteries in Newton. 3 that we actually take care of: Willow Grove, Highland, and the Town Hall, the one right out back here. In addition to the usual stuff you have to do, we have to do a budget, and we deal with the public, obviously, in the selling of graves, the interment of people, any issues that come up. We go to training every year to make sure we follow all the laws, the New Hampshire state laws, with regard to the operation of the cemeteries. And after 12 years, I can honestly say I can speak to the dead now. Matt will attest to that, Mr. Burrow. So, in fact, I had conversations recently with folks who reside at Highland Cemetery. So, if you don't want to get a visit in the middle of the night, when it comes time to vote for Article 4, make sure you fill in the yes portion. Mr. Baker.
Jim Baker, Newton. I'm sure Bill's doing a great job. That's why he's unopposed. But my comment isn't about the cemetery. It's about the safety committee. And I just wanted to thank you. I haven't gotten my calendar for many years with all the safety features for the Seabrook, and I've been getting that in the last year or two, so thank you.
Oh, and if you'd noticed, the last 2 years on the Homeland Security calendar, the Historical Society had photos of town properties in both of those. And this year, in addition to that, we had 2 photos put in the Pentucket Bank calendar. So, and that's the Historical Society, not the cemetery trustees. Any other questions? I'm free
Thank
to
you
go.
very much, Bill. Yeah, you're free to go.
Thank you.
You didn't do the list. Well, then, why don't we take 2 seconds? We've got one gentleman with us who's also running for planning board I was unaware of. So why don't you take a second, introduce yourself, and we can, you can do it right there.
Sorry, I can't speak to the dead, but sometimes when I speak too much, people wish they were dead. Yeah. I'm Michael Andrews. Most people call me Mike, and I'm asking for your vote for planning board member on town meeting day. There's 2 members running, and there's 2 openings, so essentially unopposed, but out of respect for the town and our traditions, having grown up in New Hampshire, I never would vote for somebody unless I knew them. or knew something about them. So here's a quick something about me. I grew up in Hampton. After graduating from Winnacunnet, I went to UNH, graduated from there with a mechanical engineering degree. From there, went into the Air Force, flew in the Air Force where I flew A-10s and I was a T-38 instructor. After that, hired on as a pilot at United Airlines, where I've been there for 27 years, I think now. Currently captain on the 757, 767. Most of my career I've flown international. When I got to the Air Force, I moved back to Washington, New Hampshire, small hill town in the western part of the state. And there, government experience, I was on the Zoning Board of Adjustment, where I chaired that for a number of years, and then we actually established a Conservation Commission. We were one of the last towns in the state that finally got one, where I chaired that for a number of years. Why Planning Board? I think the Planning Board, from the visions that the town puts out, from buy-in to the master plan as we go forward, the Planning Board has a big impact on where this town wants to be. And remembering what comes out of a master plan, which I understand the plan is a little over 10 years old, so it's going to be updated now. Getting the town to buy in, getting the people to say, what do we want in this town is very important. And then reflecting that not only in the ordinances, but then how the zoning ordinances are interpreted moving forward. I moved to Newton about 6 years ago. My partner, Kate Michaels, who's I know is going to be the best selectman you guys have ever seen. And we really enjoy it here, and I figured myself, it's just time to start giving back to the town a little bit. So that's my spiel, and
Thank you.
if there's any questions.
Questions, anyone? Thanks, Mike. All right, so let's do the selectmen. So we have, if you're running for selectman's office, come on up. So we have 3 candidates, and again, if I mangle the names, my apologies. We have Charlie Melvin, a representative, also state rep for us, Kate Michaels, and Andrew Whitty. I'll give them a second. I'll give them a second to get their mics going, and then we'll go in alphabetical order, which puts Mr. Melvin first, and then followed by Ms. Michaels, and followed by Mr. Whitty.
Okay, most of you know me. Been in Newton for 50 years. Run a business here, C&M Auto Repair, for 50 years. I've been a member of your planning board, your zoning board of adjustment, police chief review board, and other committees. I'm running for selectman because it's a job that when I did have it before, I enjoyed it very, very much. I feel as though I did a very, very good job. Maybe some people don't think I did a good job, but I'm also your state representative, and as your state representative, I have not voted once to increase your taxes in Concord, and I will not vote to increase your taxes in Concord. I'm also a delegate to the Rockingham County. I'm on the attorneys board, the courts, and I call it the morgue, but it's medical examiner. I'm on that committee as well. And we're overseeing a budget of over $12 million. I feel as though that I'm going to do a good job there as well for you.
Thank you. Ms. Michaels.
Hi. So I was told I have 2 minutes. And then the thing comes out, so I've been...
No, there's no hook.
No hook. Okay, I have an abridged speech, which the rest will be on the website. So, hi, I'm Kate Michaels. I'm running for selectman, and it would be my honor to serve our town. And I'm here asking for your vote on March 12th. A little bit about myself. I've devoted most of my working life to service, focusing on the health and well-being of individuals and communities. In 2004, when my daughter entered kindergarten, I went back and got my master's in clinical social work, after which I worked as a therapist with individuals and groups specializing in mental illness, chronic addiction, and trauma predominantly, but I studied lots of things. And over the years, I've been trained in numerous modalities, many of which I think would really be of service to the town and the select board, including mediation and conflict resolution, empowerment skills, communication training, and clinical research as well, which is very good to get to the bottom of things and find out what's really going on. I've seen firsthand what we can accomplish when we work together with a positive vision to help communities and individuals thrive. And it's a really good feeling to do that. In addition to my career as a clinician, been a successful small business owner and educator for 12 years. I am currently an empty nester who is semi-retired. My daughter's a sophomore in college, and perhaps most importantly, I'm the proud winner of Newton's Scariest Trunk or Treat in 2018. Yeah. I was the witch. I don't know if you saw me there. Okay, so how did I end up in Newton? 6 years ago, after the death of my daughter's father, I wanted a fresh start and a better quality of life. And when I first saw my now home, it was like, I felt like I was home for the first time. And it was love at first sight. And I'd always dreamt of a lovely, small town, close to nature with great neighbors, which I've definitely found here. And maybe that's the advantage of being here for 6 years, is that when you might get used to it, but this is a really good town. We have a very special way of life worth protecting and enhancing, and I want to give back. So living here, I found that we all want the same thing, which has been reflected in that 2008 master plan update, which needs to be updated, to maintain and enhance this beautiful way of life, keeping it clean, safe, healthy, and affordable, living within our means and using our resources wisely is absolutely crucial if we're all going to flourish together. This town, kudos to them, has been working really hard to govern in spite of a lot of downshifted expenses from Concord. And they've kept a really close eye on keeping our taxes in check so we can all afford to stay here, living here. And as Selectman Burrell says, Matt, pay attention, I'm quoting you. And it's true, I've thought this too, our department heads really need recognition for the amazing job they do, having to do more with less year after year, but unfortunately this is just not going to be a sustainable model over time. So to that end, I think that we'd have more avenues we need to explore to cut our costs and build our budget that don't involve raising our property taxes. If elected, I would absolutely look at other municipalities' successes to find out what they've done in a variety of ways that we could implement here and see if that works. Also exploring additional grant money. I know Selectman Foote is good at that too, but more of that would be incredibly useful. I mean, you can Google it. There's a long list. And to that end, learning how to write grants as well, looking at LCHIPs for some of the work we need to do in historical buildings and town hall. I would certainly follow Selectman Gagner's example and fully utilize the New Hampshire Municipal Association, which I've been which has incredible free trainings and workshops, because it's really important that we communicate and bring innovation and knowledge to the table as selectmen. And I really recognize how important it is for our select board to work together respectfully, because it's a governing group. We're a group, we have to work together, and our sole job is to serve this town and this town alone. So several weeks ago, Selectman Gagner posted an article, you can tell I follow these here, that I really love, from a 2005 news article about Newton. 2005? When the town government was, let's say, going through some challenges, contentious times, and Lisa wrote, I found a quote today in an article about our town that still rings true today, so I thought I would share it. We need people that are team players and have no personal agendas, said Harding. We all live in the same town, and we are all trying to make the town the best we can. And I could not agree more with this. I have the time, energy, and ability to work well with others, and I want to make the town the best we can, and I hope you'll consider me a choice you can trust to represent you, solely you, and our town with integrity on March the 12th. Everyone's plugging their website, so I can be reached at Kate4Newton, that's the number 4, at gmail.com, and there's a select Kate4Newton. You can put that in Facebook and WordPress, and there's more, there'll be more available there, what I believe in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Andrew.
Yes, I would like to start off by thanking everyone here and everyone at home for taking more of an active role in your local government. It has been a goal of mine since I attended Sanborn High School in Kingston to become more involved in our local and state government. I've lived in Newton for most of my 34 years, taking a sabbatical after high school down to the big city. I lived in Everett, Massachusetts for 2 years, and that was all the time I needed to realize that Newton was my home. I moved back to town in 2006, having secured my plumbing license, and went to work on the family homestead across from Rose Corner Market that you've probably all seen. Unfortunately, in 2009, I was laid off during the Great Recession that affected so many of our friends, family, and neighbors. And that was the only push I needed to go into business for myself at 25 years old. I've been investing every minute of my time to making my business successful, and I'm finally in a position to give back to the town that gave me so much. As a successful small business owner, I plan to take all of the skills I've learned and the relationships that I've created over the last decade and use them to bridge the gap not only between our currently sitting select people, men and women, but also bridge the gap between our local government and our community. I'm naturally someone who takes lead of a situation and tries to bring out the best in others. I will use every tool at my disposal to help our community combat the rising tax rates, the stagnation of our school system, and to make sure that the current and future developments in our town fit with our community ideals. Being one of the last small border towns to feel the impact of younger generations relocating, it's important we remember to look at our elders' needs and concerns, but not stifle the ambition and creativity of our new neighbors. If I'm blessed enough to become your next selectman, I promise to give 110% to our town and community. I will work to protect our small town while still making it a welcome place for new residents to come and raise their families.
Thank you. All right, so questions for the candidates?
I don't want any of you to feel left out, but this is for all of you. The question is two-part. First one being, what have you done to prepare yourself for the role that you are running for? And the second part is, if you have your day job, if you will, conflict with the selectman duties, be it time or whatever, which one's going to come first? Thank you.
We'll go in alphabetical order this time, then we'll kind of rotate the order. So we'll start with Charlie.
Okay.
Okay, the first part where she said that, what have you done for your community? I've been involved in politics since 1970 in this town. Been on many, many boards, made many, many decisions. I enjoy the job, and I'm in town all day, except for when I do go to Concord, and I go to Concord twice a week. Other than that, I'm ready and available. I do quite a bit of free work for the police department, and I've done some free work for the fire department, and I have no problem with that. I think that businesses should be doing something for the community.
Thank you. Oh, we're going to work our way down. The second part. I'm
I
sorry,
did.
two-part question.
Done.
Which comes first? If there's a conflict, which comes first? Like a time
Of course,
conflict.
the town comes first. Town definitely comes first. Always has. I leave my job to come to I've left my job in the 3 years that I spent here. I've left my job and come here. I came down, and when we did the intersection down here at 108, I left my job on a Friday afternoon and went down there and talked to the commissioners to get us that intersection taken care of.
Ms. Michaels.
Well, I didn't know you'd ask this question. Funny you should ask. So I have read Knowing the Territory Inside and Out preparation. We've dug up the master plan, 2008 revised version, studied that, talked, of course, to the people and members of the town, as well as the select board, zoning rules, town budget, watched numerous deliberative sessions and videos, which were very impressive. So that was the preparation. Also, having run for office before, I had the opportunity to canvass and get a feel for our town, which is just great. Luckily for me, I'm semi-retired at present and an empty nester, so it enables me to change my schedule around town duties. Does that answer? Okay, good, thank you, thank you.
So I personally am friends with the majority of the residents in town. I have the satisfaction of knowing many of them for a long period of time, also going to school with a lot of people's kids that are in this room. I recently have been doing my best to get more involved in the town politics. I was here on that controversial fire station meeting that was a bit of a spectacle, but that being said, with my young age, I haven't had a lot to involvement in the town on a political scale. So I look forward to learning more and coming onto the board and learning from the current sitting members that have been around for a while. If there was ever a conflict of interest, which I don't see there one being, the town would come first. But I have structured my business in a way that there's enough people that can handle it in my absence if there is an issue arises in scheduling.
Thank you. Other questions?
Do any of you have any embarrassing high school or college yearbook pictures?
Oh, that's great. Perfect.
Unfortunately, I probably do, and you could all probably just go look them up at the high school where I graduated. So I've probably seen some of them in the halls. I don't know if there's any hanging up anymore.
I don't think so. I don't think I do, I'm sad to say.
Don't look at me, I don't know.
So long ago, I don't remember.
And I don't.
Well, we'll probably have to cross that bridge when we
Yep.
get there, right? As
remember
all
a
over the
Spirit
country.
Week,
Here's to
I
creating
believe.
High school
more.
yearbooks
Yeah.
are, you know,
It's not too late, we can still come up with something.
being sold. All right, other questions? Yes.
That's it?
My name's Diane Moran, and I am a member of the Cable Committee. I am Assistant Deputy Treasurer and the Selectman's Secretary. In this position, you would be one of my 5 bosses. So, let's get on with the interview. All right. You kind of did this question, but I really want you to think about it. How much time do you think will be required of you as a selectman? First.
You want me I'll answer.
Oh, he knows.
Years ago, I was a selectman's assistant when Kenny Bowers was here, and I was spending 40 hours a week as his assistant, making sure he didn't do things wrong.
That's a different thing. But if it were you. In addition to the select board meetings that are twice a month, it would depend on what warrant article or what issue was being discussed and the preparation needed. For example, I'm kind of a nerd that way. For example, like watching the keynote deliberative session, I would have had a very big pile of papers on keynote, so it would just depend. Does that?
Okay, how much time do you think will be required of you as a selectman?
Okay, 3, 6.
Ballpark it. What do you think?
I didn't think about this.
What are you
Hours.
thinking? You're thinking 40 hours?
I'm thinking anywhere between 30 to 40 hours, but it could even run more.
All right, no, that's fine. I'm just trying to...
Per
set
week.
expectations.
Okay.
What you're thinking.
Okay, wait, let me do my additions. You
So-
take the question
so
while I do my addition,
I
my
expect
addends.
to personally invest at a minimum 15 hours a week into the town. I already come by here multiple times a week with personal business. I understand that there's at least 2 meetings that you need to meet for the requirements of the position, plus a third, I believe you have to sit on another board also, which I believe has 1 meeting per month. I'm not sure if that was correct. What's that?
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Ex officio.
So besides those 2 monthly meetings, I expect somewhere around 10 to 15, perhaps more hours per week invested in,
So we're gonna
in
go
just the
10?
position. I would say on average 15 hours a
15.
week.
What's your number?
That sounds about right. I was doing math. I guess it depends on what your ex officio is and what's at stake
so
that
you-
month. It's going to vary.
Right, you don't...
Just go with 15.
Okay.
Sorry, copycat,
Oh, that's
but
all right.
So
That's a
let's
good
go
answer.
on.
it's a great answer.
All right, so I'll give you an easier one. What do you think are, if any, issues that need to be addressed within the town?
So I personally have a vested interest in seeing the intersection down at the corner of 108 at Rose Corner done correctly with thought and care put into it so that way it doesn't mess with our town and the traffic flow in that corner. I mean, that's also, while it's a town-wide issue, it's certainly a personal issue with my father's property being right there. Another big issue that I see with the town is the town owning so much property, but none of it being utilized for much. I also see a lot of the degradation in the properties because while we do what we can, there isn't a lot of money left in the budget for regular maintenance on these buildings. It's also a personal interest of mine because I've known all the ladies that work downstairs here and upstairs for that matter, and how diligently they work. And it's my understanding that they haven't gotten a raise in quite some time, which doesn't seem quite fair for them in the time that they put into our town to be locked into that position. And then I see, obviously, the fire station has been a big bone of contention with a lot of people in town, so that's also a large current issue that even come March, I believe, will still be something that the selectmen have to deal with.
The thing, other than dealing with what is on the table, exactly, upkeep of the buildings, the supplies that the dwelling supplies that you're dealing with, the mice in the ceiling, what I can bring to the group is the idea of looking at the grants and getting trainings to find new ways to increase our budget without taxing. That to me is really important because it's the downshifting, it's not sustainable. That's a big thing of mine. So I will be looking towards innovative ways and exploring, not that it would work, but how can we cut costs in power? In our master plan, they do discuss alternative energy. I'm not proponing, I don't want to raise our taxes, but there are some cases you could at least get an assessment with solar. There are just lots of things to explore. That would be one of the things I'd be very interested in bringing to the table because of a very serious issue, which is we want all these things, but we cost money to pay for them. And even though there's lots of things, I think town spirit is important. And I was a little discouraged to see, even the sprinkler, I don't think our town hall should burn to the ground. I want people to care about our town. I mean, it's going to affect all of us. So let's find a way to work together so we respect the things that are so good about our town. I think people lose sight of that. So educating and supporting town spirit in our town, in addition to everything else that has to get done, which is budget, budget, budget.
Okay, my pet project was the intersection at 108. We know it's going to take place. It's going to take place by 2/24. So that was my biggest one. The other one is I'd like to keep the taxes in bay, but I've told each department head that I feel as though that they should be asking for whatever they can get, but take what they get. Because we have roads, our road agent should be asking for more money. We need more work done on our roads in town. Our roads aren't in very good condition. He doesn't have no money.
All right, next question. When was the last time you attended a selectmen's meeting in person?
The last one was that fire station meeting for
Okay,
me.
so December 4th.
Yeah.
On video only.
Okay.
I've been watching it on video, but I've attended a few of
The
them.
answers are no there, yes there. Got it. No problem. Okay, the deliberative session is a very important meeting. Did you attend?
Yes, I attended.
Okay,
I did not.
okay.
I had a previous commitment, but I watched the entire thing, which was remarkably short.
Yeah, okay.
Shocking for a deliberative session.
All right. There's no right or wrong answers here. I'm just trying to figure out where you guys are.
Okay.
All right. I think pretty much you've answered this one. Have you read any of the minutes or viewed the videos? Seems like you two have. Have you?
Oh, I've seen a lot of the videos. My father watches them religiously on the cable channel.
Father watches them.
Every
Nice.
time, and we discuss them, and
Okay.
I've shown him some online as well,
So
yeah.
you're watching them as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you mentioned the December 4th meeting.
Yes.
All right. What would you have done differently to handle that situation?
Ooh, that's a touchy subject for sure.
That's what you're gonna have to deal with.
I can't say there would have been a better way to handle that situation. I believe a lot of people came to that meeting with a bone to pick. And yeah, I believe it was handled with as much tact as it could have, really.
All right. Now, I don't know if you guys know what meeting we're talking about here.
I watched
The
it.
post-fire station
Yeah, the fire
issue,
station
yeah.
one, correct. December 4th, it was a,
I
was
saw
heated. It
Yeah,
was
I saw
heated.
all the Facebook stuff leading up to it.
okay. So I would just recommend you review that video. Okay? Unless you want to comment on how you would have handled it. If you haven't viewed it, I don't think you should comment. Just my opinion.
Okay,
Handled the meeting?
Yeah.
if you didn't view it.
Have you looked at the video?
Oh, yeah, I
Okay.
watched the
So then how
video.
would you have handled it differently?
I really don't think it could have been handled differently.
Okay.
Because there was individuals here that was attacking. And to be honest with you,
Yep.
I've spoke with Mike Favero, and I believe that he did a great job at the fire station, building that fire station. I also believe that he got duped because they were supposed to be getting a tower up there for the antenna service. They didn't get the tower, so he ended up building that cupola and putting it up on top of there so they could put the communications up there, and we wasn't charged. He also got all the electrical in there for free. I think the only thing that Mike did wrong is when things changed, he should have stopped and said, I gotta rewrite the contract.
Okay.
And that's my feeling on that one.
Okay. All right.
And I
Let's
unplugged.
see. Okay, so there are times that the selectmen must meet more than twice a month. As an example, during the months of October through January, which we kind of call around here budget season. Basically, they can meet sometimes every week. Do you think you guys are available to do that? Now, that's a big time frame because that's October through January, and you're talking holidays. So I just want you to set your mind that you may have to commit to that.
I'll go first.
Okay.
When I was selectman for the 3 years, I never missed a budget meeting.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I never missed a selectman meeting. Incorrect. I missed one. I took my birthday off.
Okay.
It is my intention to attend every meeting.
Okay.
I don't expect to miss any of the meetings myself.
All right. Okay, so the next question I have for you is, during elections, there must be a quorum of Board of Selectmen. So like on March 12th, there has to be at least 3 members.
Correct.
So can you commit to providing a full day to stay here when we have elections, especially coming up in like, I think 2020, when we have several elections, because you have the primaries, you got the town elections, and you got the federal, the big one, the presidential election. So you're going to have to stay here from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And so that's a day out of your work life. A day.
It's a little longer than that. It's more like 8 a.m. till about midnight.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
I was trying
Sorry, she was trying to sugarcoat it. It's like, you're here all day.
Personally, working in the construction field, especially where I got my plumbing license, I'm used to early days and working late nights to finish a project on time, so I would have no issue spending all day for any days that needed here.
We've done that occasionally. Yeah, the camaraderie is actually, it's a really nice time to see the people of the community. I actually enjoyed it, especially if you can be indoors most of the time. It's really nice. That's the best. So that makes it easy.
I worked every election, and then when I wasn't selectman, I worked elections. You can ask Mr. DeMello.
Okay, that's good. And just making sure you can commit to it.
And if I'm elected, I will.
Diane, may I just take the floor for 1 second?
Especially if there's a big sale.
We've had in the past 2 town elections, terrible snow. And it has become a Newton town tradition that the campaigning candidates out front shovel the snow. Because we need everybody to pitch in. So I'm just thinking, I'm hoping that all of our prospective candidates, well, first I'm hoping we don't have snow. But if we do have snow, I'm hoping all the prospective candidates will bring their snow shovels.
I'll even bring the snowblower down.
There you go, it'll be all set. Sorry.
Right. I'll have my planning board friend bring the
All right, couple more questions and then you can relax. So what kind of experience do you have with hiring or terminating employees? Because as part of a Board of Selectmen, you will be doing that.
Diane, I went through that, and I can't really discuss it for the town.
Oh, so you've had experience?
Yes.
That's okay. That's kind of like what your
Yep.
comfort zone.
And it was for the town of Newton.
Yep.
And it was for the best interest of the town of Newton.
Okay.
So I currently deal with hiring and firing of laborers up to tradesmen. So I'm comfortable letting go poor performers, if you will. And I enjoy the interview process for finding new hires personally.
I'm trying to think. I've been lucky enough not to have to fire anybody. As a therapist, however, I hope I could do it in a compassionate and appropriate way.
Okay, Kate, you kind of referred to this, the NHMA, which is the New Hampshire Municipal Association, they hold trainings for selectmen, especially new ones, and they're Monday through Friday. Will you be able to attend those trainings?
Mhm.
And I believe you're
I
all
mentioned it.
okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
they look great.
And Selectmen's School on Saturdays, you take that, you do that as well. Oh, they're not doing it anymore? You done it when I was there. Was you?
Aw.
That's a shame, because that's quite informative.
Matt,
All right. Okay, so that's pretty much my questions. So in closing, I just wanted to let you know that this elected position is not a 4 to 8 hour a month job. Most months, the amount of time needed is over 10 hours, which you kind of understand now. If you are elected, you will have a laptop for the town business. You will have an email address that you will need to monitor as well. You will need to be available by phone or email to answer questions or make a decision. There will be documents that you will need to review prior to the meetings that we will make available to you electronically. You have any issues with any of those?
None.
no, I've heard you guys
I
do a
get
great
that
job
now
with
with the
that.
state.
Okay, good. And as we mentioned, currently each selectman is a liaison for department heads, boards, commissions, and committees. You will be asked to take on the liaison of the member that is now retiring or you're replacing. This means that you'll be attending other meetings or meeting with department heads. This will take away from your personal time, and I want to make sure that you are okay with this.
Not a problem.
Yes.
Did it in the past.
I'm sorry, what was Selectman Donovan's ex officio?
He has a few of them.
Oh, a few, okay. Okay. Take what he did. Okay, and then,
Trading up.
and the newbie gets what the newbie gets.
Get whatever's left. You get the scraps.
Well, so I don't know if you have any more comments that you want to make to me, or,
I just heard you guys do a great job.
all right. Well, I want to thank you for running for the selectman positions. It's greatly appreciated, and good luck.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Diane.
Sure.
We can clap.
So do you think we've grilled them enough? Should we let them go? I mean, everybody comfortable, raise it? All right.
So
I
last
want to just
questions?
add one comment, and that is to thank everyone who's running for an elected office. And in particular, thank people running to be selectmen, thank people running for the school committees, thank people running for the planet board, because every one of the cemetery trustees, we love them. Every one of those roles is very
Living
important.
with it.
And it's important for people to come up from the community and put the hours in to do that. So thank you all as candidates. Thanks for coming tonight, and thanks to everyone in the audience.